What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful night. Beautiful night tonight. Cooking dinner. I have pork loin, pork chops, and corn on the cob. So on the pork chops, I put salt, pepper, I put oregano, I put garlic, and a little paprika for color around the edges in the middle. I'm gonna cook that up, get the fire going. Mama's boy going home. And the corn here, I just put a little bit of salt, and I got the grill, so I'm gonna put it on the grill, cook it like street corn, which I'm a big fan of. When I was a kid, we had a neighbor, and every once in a while he'd give me a call. He'd say, he'd call me Nicky Boy. He'd say, Nicky Boy, I'm doing a little cooking, would you like a burger? And I'd say, sure, I'll have a burger. So I'd go over there, and he would have a burger, and he would have corn from a can and carrots from a can, and he would put me a big, one of those big LAPD. He would put me a big spoonful of both, and he'd give me a burger, and the burger never had bread. It was just the burger part. And I'd eat that, and then, you know, tell me a few stories from the good old days, and then I'd leave. Sometimes I would hang out, and he'd watch game shows. I remember he liked the Newlywed Game, and the Mike Douglas show. There was a show back in those days, Mike Douglas. Boy, Mike Douglas, yeah. Not Michael Douglas, Mike Douglas. And he liked that, and he liked Merv Griffin. I know the younger people don't know any of these people, but there were people that predated Oprah, and they had Donahue. They predated those guys, and maybe Donahue was around at the time, but he didn't watch Donahue. He watched Mike Douglas. Anyway, I'm gonna cook. Got the fire going over there. So yeah, very peaceful. Full moon, or maybe it's 99%, but it's pretty full. I'm looking at it right there. Big moon. You can see the craters all the way from here. Can't see the flag, no. I am fascinated, and I've said it before. I always say it before because I'm old enough to have said things in the past. But I'm fascinated with the universe. Fascinated. It's just very interesting to me that something rather than nothing exists, and I don't even know if it's possible to have nothing. You know, I mean, it's very weird to think of nothing, and when I say nothing, that includes empty space. So that's why I find it hard to imagine a place where nothing exists. Maybe it's impossible. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, if you have nothing, including no empty space, it's a very hard concept to wrap your mind around. But we're here. And I am one of those people, I know there's many of us, that believes that there is other intelligent life forms out there in the universe somewhere. They may not be close by, but they're somewhere. In a place this large, there's got to be lots of life and lots of intelligent life. Loch Ness Monster. Lots of intelligent civilizations. I'm hoping we're not the only ones. That would be kind of sad. You know, I'm hoping to have life forms out there that are way more advanced than us, and then other ones that are kind of starting out. I mean, we're kind of starting out. We're kind of brand new. You know? I mean, if you go before 1920, which is 100 years ago, I know, 103, almost 104, it was a primitive world. Not much in technology, you know, very little technology. Yeah, they had the locomotive, steam engines, very little medicine. They had voodoo. You know, so it's only the last, 70 years, ever since the Second World War, the H-bomb, A-bomb, that we've really started to, advance. And, I mean, in 100 years, we're going to look at these advancements, these cars, and we're going to say, we weren't that advanced. But, I mean, can you imagine a culture that is 10,000 years ahead of us, 20,000 years, a million years ahead of us? If they could make it through a so-called filter, the Great Filter, where they say where you advance to a point where you're able to destroy yourself, and then soon after that, you destroy yourself. And maybe that's why we don't find anything out there, because, 100 years, 200 years after you invent the atomic bomb, you end up using it, and all these civilizations that got to that point used it, and then they went extinct. I'm hoping that's not the case, but it's kind of likely. And the other reason, of course, is the vast distances between star systems. I mean, we have a few stars around us, and we've checked up on them, but there's no signals coming from there that we can detect. But I'm fascinated with the universe. I always at nighttime look up, especially when I'm in a dark place and there's no city lights, like the desert. You look up and you see 30,000 stars, and a lot of those are 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 light years from here. So even if they develop technology to communicate with, like the radio telescopes and antennas to transmit with, if they did that 1,000 years ago, and they're 2,000 light years from here, we're not going to hear about it for another 1,000 years. So that's why it seems quiet. But and SETI keeps looking, but SETI always says, they use the analogy that they've only looked at a very small fraction of the universe for life. And they always say it would be like going to the ocean. I know they use this example a lot, but it's an interesting example. It's like going to the ocean and taking a cup and taking water out of the ocean, looking at the cup and coming to the conclusion that there's no life in the ocean based on that small sample. And that's the analogy they use. They say that we've only looked at a very, very tiny area of the universe, and that would be like looking in the ocean based on a cup and finding nothing and coming to the conclusion that the ocean is free of life. But one day in my lifetime, I'm hoping to turn on the news or look at the internet and say, what's this? And then say, oh wow, they've made contact, real contact, not some guy in Maine, with his wife gets abducted and they come up with a story. I don't mean that nonsense. I mean real contact, where they land, or they not even have to come here, that they've actually detected radio waves, and you could see their shows, like see what they're what they look like, even if it's from 10,000 years ago. And that's another thing I always think of. How long can a radio wave last in space before it deteriorates into nothing? You can't pick it up anymore. See my cat over there. Yeah, well, you can't pick it up anymore. So they say, we can't pick anything up because there's nothing out there to pick up. And then you think, well, how much power would you have, do you need to pick up these signals? Because Voyager 1 and 2, they're not that far from here. I mean, they just left the heliosphere, the influence of the sun, about 10 years ago. And every few years we have to build bigger and bigger and bigger receivers to pick up the signal from these things that are basically in our backyard. Now what if something is, it's like, I think, a light day away? That's not that far. Light day away, one light day. Imagine something that's 5,000 light years away. What kind of an antenna would you need to pick up a signal coming from that distance? I know they pick up signals from quasars, that are, they always say, oh, a billion light years from here we picked up a signal and it was weird, and it, it had mathematical, intervals, and okay, maybe you can pick up something like that, maybe, but when you tell me you have to build bigger and bigger receivers to pick up Voyager 1 and 2 signals, I don't know, it just makes no sense. So, and doesn't a signal eventually just disappear when it keeps floating around forever? Something was sent out a billion years ago. That thing is still going through space. Doesn't break down. Photons don't deteriorate into nothingness or something undetectable. But it's to me, I always think about the universe and what it exists inside of. What is the universe expanding into? What is the universe held inside of? Got to be something. Don't give me that infinity stuff. If you have a beginning, a lot of people say, oh, the Big Bang, there was a beginning. If there was a beginning, then how do you go from a beginning to infinite? That makes no sense, if something is expanding, it has to have a finite size every second. Every second you can say, okay, it's this big, now it's this big, now it's this big. But you can't say it used to be this big, but now it's infinite. I think they just make up stuff. Tell them it's infinite. And it had a beginning at the same time. But if you say to somebody that there are more stars in the observable universe than there are grains of sand in the entire planet, on our planet, that includes the Sahara, the Mojave, all the beaches in the world. There are more stars than grains of sand on this planet. It's crazy. So, and most of those star systems have planets around them. Are we the only ones? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there's other momos out there. And if they're out there, come to me. I'm willing to come with you and explore, and I want to learn your ways. So, you find me, I'll come with you. I am not frightened. I know that it'll be, a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me and everyone else. But I'm willing to go. I'm willing to go. If they can beam me up to the spaceship, I'm willing to go. I'd like to come back and tell the story, but if they're willing to keep me, I'll stay. Motel 6, something like that. Anyway, I'm gonna cook and that's it. But the moon is big tonight. The moon is big, and they're going back to the moon. 2026, 2027, they're gonna go back and bring back some rocks. All right, that's it for now. Ciao.